All right, hey, welcome into fantasy football tonight. It looks like nobody got a notification, so it might be a minute before we get some people in. So I can't welcome anybody in tonight, but I will be welcoming Jared in here in just a few moments. Sorry about the show getting started about an hour late tonight. Some people have to work during the day. Some people travel. We'll talk about that in just a moment. And look, tonight we got a great show for you guys tonight. We're going to be talking about some DFS lineups. We're going to be talking about buy low, sell high, and where are you at in week 4? A lot's changed. And now we kind of got an attitude, or at least an adjustment of the attitude of the NFL. And where is it headed? What teams are hurting? What players are hurting? Injuries? I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on in the NFL right now that are affecting a lot of players' performances as well as teams' wins and losses. But let's see if we've got Jared with us yet tonight. He is going to be joining us from Florida, I believe is where he ended up today. It looks like he's with us. We'll bring him in. Here we go. Hey, Jared, welcome in today, man. How are you?
What's happening, man? How we doing?
Doing good. So I just noticed that it looked like maybe notifications did not go out. I don't know why. YouTube is, they do funny things. So I didn't have anybody in the chat, which was a first.
All good, man. I'm in Florida today at a hotel, and my room is right by an elevator, and there's a lot of conversation happening outside of my room. So if you see or hear faint noises of people's conversations, believe it or not, it's coming through pretty loudly. But I'm here. We're ready to go. It's been a really fun week. I think week 3 was the first fun week we've had where we had some offense. We had some things that we thought were going to happen at the beginning of the season have actually happened. And I think now it feels like we've kind of gone through that feeling out process of where everybody's at and how everybody's doing. And we're now actually in a full on, all right, now it feels like the season has started. That's where I'm sitting.
Yeah, so it's been a weird opening to the NFL season. I mean, week 1 is always week 1, right? I mean, it's always this year, let me back up. This year I did the pick'ems, and so on Wednesdays, or I'm sorry, on Thursdays I'll do a pick'em for the Thursday night game, and then Friday morning I do a full, all 32 teams, or all 16 games on Friday, and then I'll kind of revise it on Saturday. So I picked Jeremy Fowler to go up against this year. And I've been following and tracking, right? And right now I would be ranked 4th in the nation based on my pick'ems. And that's after starting six wins and 10 losses to start week 1. So I lost your audio there. I don't know what happened.
Sorry about that. Good for you. You must be on a lot of the underdogs.
Yeah. I mean, I just pick what I see. It's just based on the trends. I can't do the same for players for whatever reason. I'm not that good with the individual player performances. I'm much better as a total team performance. So I guess where I was going with this is week 1's always week 1. I crashed and burned in week 1, just like a lot of people did in fantasy football. But now in week, entering week 4, there's a little bit more of the story's been written. So we'll see what you have for us tonight. Right off the get, though, I think I just got to make this statement. The tight end position this season absolutely sucks. Injuries are starting to pile up everywhere. Offense is down, or at least it was. We had a little bit of a bounce back offense this weekend. It's already week 4. Good news is it's a new week. We've got plenty of sleepers to talk about tonight. Tonight we'll review the best options on the buy low and sell high for week 4 and kind of talk about what everyone else is seeing.
Listen, the tight end position isn't what we thought it was going to be, but if nothing else, week 3, signs of life, right? So we got Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid, Bowers had a pretty decent day. So there's something happening at least in the tight end position that's giving us something, but the Travis Kelce's, the Trey McBrides, all those high draft picks have not manifested themselves. So it's like, at least there's some sort of I would not have predicted it would come from Dallas Goedert, but it did. So at least there's something happening with tight ends.
Yeah. And hey, we got a few people in the chat, so I don't know what happened with notifications, but they clearly didn't go out. As a matter of fact, YouTube has been putting out notifications for my channel the next day. I'll get them the next day. and it's crazy. It shouldn't be happening that way. But let me make sure ads are off, because I want to make sure ads are always off while we do this live. That's the benefit of coming in during the live stream, is you guys don't have to watch ads. So let me kick those off real quick. YouTube can suck it. All right. Here we go. Question 1. Hope you're ready for it.
Let's hear it. And I guess probably for the listeners too, or the people in the chat, because like I do have a what I'll call a day job that I've spent most of the day doing today. This is going to be pretty raw. Like I haven't had a preview of these questions, so we're going to go off the cuff tonight, which is I think it's a good thing, right? We're just going to get raw answers here. There's not a lot of preparation in terms of what questions Will's throwing at me tonight. So,
but that's good though, because it tests your knowledge, right? Tests your knowledge.
Let's do it.
All right. So now the week 3 is behind us, right? We can pack it all up and put it away. Some things are starting to kind of work itself out. Who's good? Who's bad? Who's injured? Who's not? So that really kind of brings me to the opener here, and that was, which team really surprised you? So we're not going to talk about individual players just yet, but which team was a big surprise to you in a win for week 3? Biggest surprise.
It's got to be the Giants. It's got to be the Giants. Not that I think that highly of Cleveland, but I think the Giants going against Cleveland, who should have a pretty decent defense, and getting the win I think was the biggest surprise to me. I think that also had knocked a lot of people out of Survivor in different contests like that. But I think probably the Giants either the Giants beating the Browns or the Broncos beating the Bucks. Probably more so the Giants beating the Browns. I think the Bucks were a little bit overvalued coming out of the game with the Lions. I think the Lions beat the Buccaneers on paper every which way you could. We just didn't score in the red zone. And so I think the Bucks on paper look like, hey, they went into Detroit, they beat the Lions. True. All the credit to the Bucks, but I think they were overvalued because of that. And so I think the Giants beating the Browns is probably the most surprising to me.
That's interesting, because those are two options that I wouldn't have taken. So even though I've been high on the Minnesota Vikings all season, and I warned everybody to watch out for this defense, which is by far the nastiest defense right now in the league, in my opinion, right next to the Lions. Sam Darnold's the real deal, but I'm going to give my biggest surprise of the week to Justin Fields and the Steelers. Like, dude, what is going on here? Is this the resurgence of Justin Fields? Is it going to last? I should have wrote that question down. Do you think Justin Fields is going to last? If you want to answer it, go for it. I'm going to say no, but I don't know.
My feeling, I will say what Mike Tomlin is refusing to say, and that Justin Fields is the starting quarterback for the
Oh, he is. Yeah, he is. I don't even think Russell Wilson's hurt.
If I am the Steelers, listen, I don't claim to be an NFL GM, but if I'm the Steelers, I'm flipping Russell Wilson to the Dolphins, because I'm not even paying for him anyway.
Yeah, right. I think they paid $1 million for him. That's it, which is nuts.
Flip him to the Dolphins. Right.
That makes perfect sense. Get some capital back or whatever you can. Conversely, the biggest loss. What was your biggest, surprise loss of the weekend?
Bengals. Bengals.
See, I've been really low on the Bengals all year.
I've been low, but geez, like the Commanders don't have a defense. You're home, Monday Night Football. Like, you came off of a tough loss to Kansas City. Like, you had to show up Monday night, and they did not.
Yeah, so
the Panthers beating the Raiders doesn't surprise me so much, because I think Andy Dalton gave them an injection of life. I think the Raiders also were a little bit overvalued coming off of the Baltimore win. But oh God, the Bengals, you got to show up there. That's rough.
Well, they still didn't have Jamar Chase, right?
No, they had Chase, they had Higgins,
so they did have him back.
They had a full complement on offense. Maybe Higgins has got to warm up, and now you got the Dalton going back against the Bengals here next week, and so the Bengals are favored against Carolina. But you got to show up there. You got to be able to beat the Commanders at home on Monday night. That's my biggest surprise, I think.
Biggest surprise for your loss. So, let's see. Biggest surprise for me had to be. Who would it have been? I really don't know. I guess I would say that the 49ers losing in the fashion that they did to the Rams, and the Rams coming all the way back like that is destitute as the Rams really were. That was nuts.
Yeah, I didn't think about the Rams that's another good one.
I guess the thing for me about Washington is I've always been high on Jaden Daniels. I said that he was going to be the best quarterback out of this draft. And that wasn't saying much because, I mean, 2 years ago I was high on Caleb Williams, but not after the antics leading up to the draft and clearly not all the crap that was going on in Chicago with him. I just don't have any confidence, and that's not because I'm a Lions fan. I just have no confidence in Caleb Williams, zero, until he shows me something for 7 weeks in a row. I have zero confidence in him. Jaden Daniels, I do. That dude is putting the work in, and he's getting better every week. So
Jaden Daniels, I think we can get into it later. We can talk about it now. I think we're really starting to see like 3 rookies emerge as bona fide like starters day one. It's Jaden Daniels, I think, is going to be he's going to have bumps. Like we're not going to have every game's not going to be like this last week, but he's got a defense that bad. He's going to be throwing, and he's going to be running for first downs for the entire game. We're not going to get into a ball control situation with the Commanders. The second one is Malik Neighbors. Like, holy shit. Like, this guy is like almost unguardable as a rookie right now. Like, teams are going to start to double team him, right? And I think he's also going to hit, bumps in the road. But, like, he seems right now like a fantasy football wide receiver 1, and he's played 3 games. The other one, Brock Bowers. Like, Brock Bowers could potentially break Sam Laporta's records from last year in terms of rookie tight end performance. Again, plug and play. Like, we went years without seeing a tight end perform going into the first couple of weeks of the season, and then now all of a sudden, back-to-back years, we've got the TN1 like potentially breaking NFL records. I think it's early. It's 3 weeks. I get it, but like Brock Bowers right now looks like the real deal also.
It's interesting. Come on, we can't let Sammy the Bull get beat here.
Hey. Yeah, I know, right?
All right. So question 2 for tonight was the biggest breakout. This is player. Biggest breakout of week 3 that was unexpected. Like you didn't see it, you didn't know it was coming. Yeah. Maybe you did, but what did you think?
I think the first one I'll say is Dallas Goedert. I mean, I think would he have 10 catches for 170 yards or something like that? Like that's massive. I did not see that.
What was it? 170, 10 for 170?
I think it was 10 for 170.
So did he have more yards than all tight ends combined that started?
He might have.
For the weekend.
Yeah. And then the other one, we were high on him last week. We told people to pick him up. Juwan Jennings. I don't think that was news to anyone. I think he surprised me in how much he balled out. Like I was expecting 70 yards and a touchdown at max. But to see what he did, like, and how much he balled out, the highest point scorer in fantasy football for the week, I didn't see that coming. That was huge upside that I was surprised about.
Yeah, I mean, he really stepped up, for the 49ers there, and I guess I guess I'm a little curious about Brandon Ayuk for the week, but we can get into that later too if we have time. Yeah. Question 2, part B. Who was the biggest disappointment so far, through weeks 1 and 2? Maybe they played well and then they just fell apart in week 3.
I think the biggest disappointment isn't a surprise to me because we've been pretty low on him already, but I've expected to see something from Travis Kelce so far. There's just been nothing. And, not even like a 5 for 50. Like, give me something like a 5 for 50 or something like that. Like right now, I think he's beyond football is my opinion. I think he's beyond football. Like, and it's not, I mean, no disrespect to him for that either. Like he's got a 9-figure podcast deal. He's 35 years old. He's in every other commercial. He's dating the world's the most famous person in the world. Like, he's got a full plate. I just think football has unfortunately taken a bit of a hit because of that and because of his age. 3 years ago, when Travis Kelce was 32 years old, regretfully, I said, "Hey, nope, the decline's coming. I'm out." And I haven't had Travis Kelce on any of my what I would call high stakes leagues since 2022. And I missed out because he did have a couple more good years. But I think right now we're definitely at the end. I think I got out a little too early, but I think it's better than getting out too late. And I think Travis Kelce I think he's going to be fine. He's not going to be a first or second round draft pick like a lot of people had him, or third round draft pick. I think he's just going to be an average tight end. And there's going to be games where he's going to spike and he's going to have, 7 for 80 and 2 touchdowns. That'll happen at some point this year. But as far as the consistent production you're used to seeing from Travis Kelce, I think those are all in the rearview mirror.
So there's a question in here, which I don't know how we could even answer this. One, I don't know who Michael K is. Two, says, I have to ask, when did it become a thing for players to put junior or senior on the back of their jerseys? And when did it become so popular for announcers to call them by their initials? I don't know what the big deal is with this. Like, is there something that I'm missing? But junior and senior's been on the backs of jerseys for a long time, or the 1, 2, and 3 or.
Yeah, I think what we're getting though, that's like, as far as physically being on the jerseys. Yes, I think now what we're getting is, one comes to mind is Aaron Jones Sr. Aaron Jones is now Aaron Jones Sr. because he's had a child and presumably has named it also Aaron Jones. So he's now a senior, right? And so things like Aaron Jones Sr. is new to us, right? And I don't know. I'm guessing there's probably a personal choice in these players and making sure that their legacy lives on. But I've noticed a little bit of that too.
So they've had kids, basically, is what we're
That's it. Yeah, they've had kids, and they've decided to honor their kids by putting senior on their jersey. So someday the kid's gonna understand, like, hey, my dad played in the NFL. I'm the junior. He's the senior.
Yeah. Detroit Fan Man says, and by the way, Michael K, like I would never interrupt, a co-host while they're talking to answer a question. So I would wait. That's why I'm not going to get to you right away. And when we have a show format, we got to get through everything before we can even take questions. So appreciate the question though. Come back next time, ask another one. Detroit Fan Man says, I blame Titus Young for this junior senior thing. He's just kidding, but yeah. So I mean, even as far back as Titus Young. Yeah. I mean, it goes back a minute.
That's a minute. That's a minute I want to forget, but
yeah. So Ryan Van Valkenburg, I don't know what's going on with Laporta. You'd have to expand upon that a little bit, unless you're talking about his production. But
I haven't seen news on his injury. Again, I've been occupied with work most of the day today. I haven't seen any reports on the injury. I know they were off today. I think their first practice of the week is actually tomorrow.
Yeah.
As opposed to what would normally be today. So I think we'll get more update. I think it's a low ankle sprain instead of a high ankle sprain,
which is good.
That's probably a positive thing. But before he got hurt, you could see that there was some conscious effort from Ben Johnson to get him involved. Yeah, I think that's a positive we can take away from that.
I still think there's something going on there. Like, as far as, I don't think he's fully healthy. I don't think he has been fully healthy this whole season. I really don't think so.
Yeah.
He just doesn't appear like he has been. I mean, they weren't going to him at all. They were kind of going the opposite direction. Like, Goff wasn't even looking in his direction. But anyway, let's get into question 3 here. Let's take a look at some sleepers, kind of where you see some action this week based on some matchups. And, a few come to mind here, but I'll let you just kind of run away with your sleepers for the week and tell me what you're thinking.
Yeah, a couple things, a couple people that I want to have my eye on that I think can be sleepers this week, but also just players to maybe roster, right, that could be on the waiver wire. One, Braylon Allen. So Braylon Allen is the backup, quote unquote, to Breece Hall in New York. But I don't think I think he's going to have some standalone value. pretty soon. I think he's starting to get a good amount of the workload. I think they're going to try to balance this out a little bit and keep Breece Hall fresh. But I think getting Braylon Allen rostered right now is probably a smart move. I like the Darnell Mooney angle as well. Like most other wide receiver twos for most teams are rostered. You look at Jameson Williams, you look at Jaden Reed, you look at or Christian Watson, whatever order you want to put him into. In Chicago, the second wide receiver twos are rostered. Darnell Mooney is the bona fide wide receiver two for Atlanta, and so if we can get him in that conversation, I think that's a really good thing to look at. And I think if Trey McBride misses any time, Michael Wilson. I've been high on Michael Wilson all along. I know a lot of people are in the Greg Dortch camp. I feel really good about Michael Wilson having a pretty solid role moving forward. He played really well against the Lions as well. So he would be another one. And then you mentioned at the beginning, the Vikings defense, I think, is for real. For those, I know they've got a bye week coming up, but for those who want to have like a season-long defense who can put up a lot of points in terms of sacks and turnovers, I think the Vikings are actually a really good look right now. So those are a couple of things that are on my mind.
They're scary, man. They're when I
Flores is aggressive. He's aggressive.
Yeah, I did an unbiased review, and I tried to go through all of the different positional groups before we got to the first preseason game. I don't think I ever finished it. I think I got through most of them, but I said that the Vikings were going to have probably the best defense in the North, and I think went as far as to say they're going to be one of the best in the league, just based on who they brought in. But I was hoping I was wrong. Like, that's one I was hoping I was going to be wrong about. Did you say Michael Wilson?
I love Michael Wilson.
Okay, so you said Michael Wilson. So here's one that was thrown out there. Rashawn Johnson, Chicago. The Rams only stuffed 13.3% of runs so far this season, third lowest. And Johnson kind of flashed in week 3, kind of giving some hope to increased volume. Where would you put Rashawn Johnson right now?
If I know he's the 2, I like Rashawn Johnson, but we got Khalil Herbert. We've got DeAndre Swift obviously is the lead back. And so like, I just don't know where Rashawn Johnson fits. But overall, like, I think running against the Rams is something you're going to want to do, especially they haven't been the same really without Aaron Donald. The Lions torched them in week 1. I can't remember who they had in week 2, but I don't remember the Cardinals, I think it was. And James Conner had a great game. So like, you can run on the Cardinals, or you can run on the Rams. It's which player is going to do it. And I think you could go all in on Rashawn Johnson and then find out it's Khalil Herbert that's getting most of the carries. And so It's just a risky situation in terms of Rashawn, in my opinion.
I wish that in fantasy football, like, that maybe there should be a league that allows second half adjustments. Like, you could put in somebody else that was in the same, like you're handcuffed. You know what I mean? Like, let's say you have another player that is on your team that's in the same game, that you could flip them at halftime. You know what I mean?
There you go.
That would be sweet. All right. So if Keenan Allen is out, now I've had Cole Kmet sitting on my roster this whole season. I think I dumped him. Last week.
A lot of people did.
And that's because he didn't do anything, and I needed somebody else to step up, and I still lost for the 3rd week in the row in the other league, which is crazy. I shouldn't have. But anyway, Cole Kmet. Is he a near must start given the tight end landscape right now, plus the Rams' struggles against tight ends?
I don't know about must start. I mean, I'd like to see him do it with Keenan Allen there as well, because when you get DJ Moore, you get Roma Dunze, who looked really good, and then you get Keenan Allen back in there. There's only so many targets to go, right? And if you're looking at, like, if you start breaking down the number of targets that the Bears are going to have, the percentage of pass to run, like, there's just mathematically there's not going to be enough for all the Bears weapons to eat. Just not, like, so. And I think if anybody's left out of this, it's probably going to be Keenan Allen himself, right? Because if you've got a producer who's a rookie on a rookie contract, if you envision being with your organization for a longer period of time, you're going to defer kind of to having that person running with the ones, right? Keenan Allen's a 1-year deal, I think. And so, like, if there's anything else, he's never really been able to stay healthy for his full season. So I think right now, if all things equal, you're going to have more targets going the way of Roma Dunze. So I'm not feeling great on Keenan Allen. When he comes back healthy, I just don't know if there's a lot of volume that he's going to be able to turn into production.
So I'd say the biggest name that's probably popping off the page to me right now is Andy Dalton. And he kind of fits in that same box that I said about Sam Darnold. You bring in a guy that has a lot of experience in the league. He's seen a lot of different defenses. He's been through a plethora of OCs. You stick him on a team that actually has a few players. Is this somebody that you should forget about into week 4? Is he someone that maybe you should, back end, your roster with? The Saints are kind of all over the place right now, but you saw on Monday night that the Bengals defense, I'm sorry, the Saints were all over the place when Dalton was there, but Monday night the Bengals had all sorts of defensive issues. So I guess the question would be, is this a good start for Dalton going up against the Bengals?
Yeah, it has to be. I don't know if I would start him over 12 different quarterbacks.
Makes sense.
I mean, so you have to be like, could you start Andy Dalton? Yeah, you could. Like, would I start him over like the quarterbacks that I would put in like the 9, 10, 11 range? Probably not. Like, he'd probably be in the mid-teens. If I'm ranking them. I haven't gone with my rankings yet this week, but I would probably put him in the mid-teens. Now, if you're desperate at quarterback and your best quarterback you have is a Trevor Lawrence, which I was high on, I'm proving to be very wrong on that right now, then yeah, he's a very viable start. Would I start him like over a Dak Prescott, or would I start him over a Joe Burrow or anybody else that I would look at like the mid to low single digits? No, I wouldn't. I mean, you inspected the injection of life. He's already down Adam Thielen, which again is just the safety valve. There's not a lot of weapons on the outside yet that have developed any sort of chemistry. So I wouldn't be too quick to go all in on Andy Dalton. But if you're in a bind, he's a fine start this week.
Okay. Well, with that's it for sleepers for the week, unless there's anybody else you want to add.
I don't think so.
Chuba Hubbard, do you think about him at all this week? With he's going up against a really bad Bengals defense too, and when he averages 14 plus touches, he's somewhere between 9 to 22 points in a game, depending on your league.
Yeah, you just got to look at what that great game script is going to be. Like the Raiders couldn't keep up with the scoring. The Bengals can keep up with the scoring. And so I think what's going to happen is if that game gets into a shootout, the Panthers aren't going to stop the Bengals. Let's just put it that way. Like, they're not going to, the Bengals are going to score points. And so the Panthers are going to have to throw. So if there's anything that I want to do with the Panthers, it's latch on to the passing game, not necessarily the running game this week. Great week against the Raiders last week, but that was also a different type of game than I think the Bengals game was going to be. So I would probably defer more to the passing game for the Panthers.
Gotcha. All right, well, let's move on to some buy low, sell high. To type something in the chat real quick. So next up, let's take a look at some options for buy low, sell high. Some players are reeling a bit right now. Myself included. Like I said, I'm 0-3 in a fun league for Rocked On Detroit Lions podcast, and looking to do anything I can to really save my season. I'm not sure that I'm going to get a whole lot of trade consideration from anybody. So, I might tend to get a little desperate and try to pull something off, hoping to capitalize, really on any players, that are in the same position. I just don't know if I'm going to get any trade consideration at all from anyone. But I guess question 4 would be on the buy low, sell high. If you can catch someone biting right now, what would be your best option or options based on the matchups for buying low right now? Doesn't matter the position. And then we'll kind of get into the buy low list, if you will.
Yeah, I think the Packers receivers are right now a little bit depleted. I think most people are going to understand that Jordan Love is coming back, and so there's going to be a bit of a boost to that. I'm still a believer in Anthony Richardson. I know I shouldn't be based on what I've seen, but I think he needs more experience. He hasn't started a lot of games. I think if you can get something for Anthony Richardson, I think it's only going to go up from here. And I think there's a lot of owners who have relied on Anthony Richardson that are pretty frustrated with him. So I think buying low on Anthony Richardson could be an option.
And I guess for those, hold on real quick. So for those that don't understand the buying low strategy, if another player has, if another team, right, another fantasy footballer has some players on their roster that maybe haven't performed very well, you might be in a buy low situation by, attempting to trade or, depending on your league, purchase. I don't even know how that works, but the other players. So, in this case, Richardson, if you can get him, snag him from this other player, now would be a good time to do that.
And you want to pair it up with somebody who you think you want to sell high on.
Yeah.
Like you want to make sure that you're getting, like, think of somebody like Sam Darnold. Let's look at Sam Darnold. He's playing really well, right? And I know you have been very high on Sam Darnold. You're a Sam Darnold believer. I'm not really one way or the other strongly. I think right now he's a very smart pickup because of the things he has going for him. He's got a great play caller. He's got a great wide receiver, and he's got raw talent. If you feel Sam Darnold is overperforming from what you think the mean is, and you think Anthony Richardson is underperforming compared to the mean, trading a Sam Darnold for an Anthony Richardson right now is a very smart move. You're selling Sam Darnold on a high, you're buying Anthony Richardson on a low, right? And then, but for in terms of like what production could be moving forward, I think the upside is much higher on an Anthony Richardson. So you want to pair these up a little bit. You want to find somebody where you feel the value is at its peak with the way they're performing today. And if you feel that's going to drop off, let's find somebody that we can swap it out for.
Now,
right? And then find somebody that's buying low.
Are these in the leagues where you're keeping these players year over year, this roster year over year? I mean, if you're
it can be. It can be. It could also just be a season-long league that allows trades.
Okay.
Right? And I think that can also happen because I think at the end of the year, in week 10, 12, we'll say, I think Anthony Richardson is going to be a smarter buy than Sam Darnold.
Gotcha. Yeah. So Eric Rentamaki says that Kyler Murray is this week's or his sleeper this week versus Washington. Any thoughts on that?
So I don't know if we could call it a sleeper, right? I think Kyler Murray against Washington, let's say any quarterback against Washington is a good play right now. I think the game, the Bengals didn't have to punt. Neither did the Commanders, in fairness, right? Like it's the first game that didn't have a punt in it since like 1940. I could be wrong on that, but I think that's what I heard. And every possession ended up with points except for a quarterback kneel down. So the Commanders' defense is abysmal. So any quarterback starting against the Commanders is a good play. And when you got a decent, or what I'd say a high-end quarterback like Kyler Murray, it's hard to put that as like a sleeper, like because that I think that's kind of a set it and forget it type of play. That's
gotcha. So I want to compare some notes here, or your opinion versus their opinion. So Jeremy Schulman had said this. He said that if he was buying low today and he was targeting Jaden Reed, we know that the talent he possesses, and we know that Jordan Love is obviously targeting him when are often in the lineup. Christian Watson has become an afterthought in Green Bay's offense, and while Romeo Doubs is the only consistent threat to Reed's target share, they also know that Reed is even more efficient with Love, who is due back from injury soon. And his 2 touches per week in the run game also help to balance his floor. Finally, the Packers' schedule looks really friendly all year long. I think they forgot that they play the Lions twice. So I'm paying up for Reed now after 2 down weeks. I'll send Najee Harris and George Pickens or Brian Thomas if you want a non-Steeler sell option to acquire him. Would you agree, disagree, or what would you do differently?
I think the first thing that stands out to me is Christian Watson is Jeremy Shulman saying Christian Watson has become an afterthought in Green Bay's offense. And how do we know? Like, I don't know that. Like, I think the Green Bay has played with Malik Willis the last 2 weeks.
Right.
And I don't know that what we're seeing from a Malik Willis-led Packers team is what Green Bay's offense is going to be the rest of the year. So I think, is Christian Watson taking a hit with Malik Willis as the starter the last couple of weeks? Yes. But I don't know for sure that he's an afterthought in the offense. And so I think that's the one thing I would probably disagree with. And I think that becomes a point of like, we're selling low, right, without knowing like where Christian Watson actually is. And so I don't know, I might be a little bit hesitant to just put him in the same camp, but I think we have to think about, what Christian Watson's going to be when Love is back healthy, which we'll learn a little bit more this week, most likely.
All right, before I get on to the next one, little housekeeping here in the chat right now. Get in on your tickets to the Aiden Hutchinson limited edition blackout jacket. It is it's a Monday night special. I have a couple of them in my possession, and they are going to be raffled off for Rocked On Cancer Foundation. So get your limited edition opportunity, because it's only going to happen once. And right now the raffle tickets are on buymeacoffee.com/rocked on. And I'm going to go ahead and throw that in the chat right now. So if you are a Lions fan and you are interested in getting this opportunity on the jacket, here you go. Raffle tickets are only $5. Brandon Ayuk. So Derek Brown of Fantasy Pros, he had this to say about Brandon Ayuk. He said, after this week, I'll be attempting to trade for Brandon Ayuk everywhere I possibly can. He remains one of the best wide receivers in the NFL despite his slow start. This week won't be any kinder to him with a possible Christian Gonzalez shadow. But Ayuk's talent remains. Among 106 qualifying receivers, he ranks third in separation score and first in route win rate. I swear these win rate things, I have the worst trouble saying pass rush win rate. I can't do it. And route win rate. I have trouble doing it. I don't know why. Anyway, he says, I'm willing to try to acquire him for a low-end RB2 or in a 2-for-2 trade where I can send a receiver and a running back, where maybe I tier down at running back slightly, but get a tier up at wide receivers. So he's kind of, I guess he's stacking, he's going to, like he just said, he said, I can't say it any better. He's going to tier down at running back. He's going to tier up at wide receiver. That's his combo play, trying to acquire Brandon Ayuk. Derek Brown had that to say. What does Jared have to say? Lost your mic there. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I'm muting myself because of the talking. I don't know what's happened. People decided to throw a party at the elevator on the 8th floor here. Next time, request a room away from the elevator. I agree with him. Brandon Ayuk right now, it's hard to think anybody selling him right now. There might be. But I think right now, if there's any time you wanted to acquire Brandon Ayuk, it's probably today or after next week when he goes up against Christian Gonzalez. I don't see any problem with that. I think a Brandon Ayuk is definitely going to be poised for a long-term role in this offense, and I do think that despite the struggles, the 49ers are going to be back. They'll be humming here the second half of the season.
Yeah, so do you think that, after do you really try this week, or are you kind of expecting roll the dice and say, maybe he's going to have another bad week and then his value is going to go down even more?
I'd wait a week. Yeah.
Okay.
I think there's a couple things that can happen. Yeah, he's going to have a tough matchup against Christian Gonzalez, but also there could be a highly focused running game if they're handling the Patriots the way they should. They're a 10-point favorite. That's not going to be a favorable game script for Brandon Ayuk. And I think you could find somebody who's maybe not paying as attention to all these different factors and grab Ayuk for a little cheaper next week.
Gotcha. So Tom Strahan, I think that's how you say his last name, or Strahan, NFL Best Ball, had this to say about Drake London. He said, over the offseason, Drake London's value peaked as high as a wide receiver 10 on keeptradecut.com, but has now plummeted to wide receiver 17. Falcons quarterbacks averaged 15.5 completions per game in 23, hampering London's ability to break out. But Kirk Cousins right now is averaging 20 in each of his last 2 games, and he is getting healthier. Don't be surprised to see London trend upwards if you're a contender and give up a potentially late first and late second. That's a good deal. Do you think the deal is worth it? Is it too high? Is it too low? Is it just enough? Or would you not make the deal at all?
I would say, so this is a dynasty question, more or less, right? Because you're talking about first and second round picks that you'd be exchanging. So that's implying that there's a dynasty component to this particular transaction, which is fine. I would make that deal. Like when you think about, so let's just like fast forward to the rookie draft for next year. Are you going to get somebody like a Drake London at the end of the first, early of the second? Like with knowing what you know now, like you could, but it's also going to be a big risk. It's going to be a big mystery. Like I think if most people could say, hey, I can get Drake London and I have to give up a first and a second, I think people would do it. Because I also think, like, we can talk about Kirk Cousins, that's fine, but before Drake London in his career with the Atlanta Falcons ends, Kirk Cousins won't be his quarterback. It's going to be Michael Penix. And I think there's inherent upside in waiting to see what that turns into. And that could be as early as this year, or it could be as early as next year.
So you think that picking up Drake London and waiting to see what happens with Penix is a good play?
I do.
Okay. All right. So we had a question in the chat, but I asked for some more information to see if there's any way possible you can answer it. Next up, Anthony Richardson. So Mike Finelli of Fantasy Pros had this to say about Anthony Richardson. He said, Richardson is ultimate boom or bust fantasy football quarterback. He has had an outstanding week 1, totaling 26.1 fantasy points on only 9 pass completions and 6 rushing attempts. Unfortunately, fantasy players have seen his extremely low floor over the past 2 weeks, with Richardson completing 50% of his passes for 185.5 yards, half a touchdown, and 7.5 fantasy points per game. He has struggled to protect the ball. He has thrown 5 interceptions over the past 2 weeks against 2 talented defenses. Thankfully, Richardson has a fantasy-friendly matchup ahead of this or after Sunday's game, which was against the Steelers, including the Jacksonville Jaguars in Week 5. He faces the Houston Texans in Week 8 after dropping 26 points against them earlier this season. Here's what he says. I would try to flip a red-hot quarterback like Sam Darnold or Justin Fields and bench player for Richardson. Do you agree, disagree?
We just talked about it. Like that's what we just talked about, right? And in the example we gave at the top of the show is like you should flip Sam Darnold for an Anthony Richardson. Like that's a good deal. Like it's the when you talk about leagues in which you can have trades, it's a lot like a stock market. Like you want to buy these players low, you want to sell them high. Right now, Sam Darnold's value over what we expected is very high. Richardson is low, right? So if you can rise the value up of Sam Darnold to get to a point where you can cross over and grab an Anthony Richardson, that's a good thing. You go back to the beginning of the season, look at rankings and where consensus, where we think people are going to be. Anthony Richardson was top 10. Sam Darnold was bottom, the bottom third. And so if you get that value up to a point where you can make that crossover, you should do it. So exactly the example we gave at the beginning. If you can get rid of Sam Darnold and you parlay that into Anthony Richardson, I think there's more upside with Richardson.
I like it. See, it makes a lot of sense now that you have an example like this to speak to.
Yeah.
We had 2 more here,
and Darnold is on, I think, the sell high list as well.
Yes.
Right. That we have. Like, so, I mean, I think that's somebody that we want to make sure, like, how much better can it get for Sam Darnold? The answer is it could get better, right? But also it could also crash back down once there's more tape, once there's people will get, caught back up with what Sam Darnold's doing. He's already hurt. So I think right now Sam Darnold's value is at an all-time high.
So next up, and this will be the last one on this little segment here of buy low, be Ramondre Stevenson. This was Adam Dove of Fantasy Couriers. He says Stevenson could have single-handedly cost teams a chance at a victory in Week 3 with his 6 rushes for 23 yards, 0 receptions. Owners are bound to be angry with him. But remember, this is the same player who averaged 23 carries for 100 yards in the previous 2 weeks. Trade him while he is low, and the 49ers defense is on the horizon in exchange for players such as Chuba Hubbard, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Rachaad White, or others who could lose committee work. He can't play the Jets every week, and that will help owners when he explodes and carries them into the playoffs.
Yeah, I would agree on Chuba Hubbard. I would agree on Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, and certainly Rachaad White. Like a Rachaad White, I'm like, I don't know what's happening. Like, they feel like he has 15 carries for 30 yards. It's really abysmal in terms of production. So I would trade any of those players if you can get Ramondre Stevenson.
Makes sense.
What Adam is talking about there.
I'll skip Kelsey because I think we understand what's going on with Kelsey here.
Yeah.
So full PPR league, 12-man redraft. He has Jonathan Taylor. He has James Cooks. He has Etienne. And then he has Debo, T. Higgins, Jalen Reed, and Pickens. He's just not too confident in the Bears offense or Caleb Williams. And he wants to know if he should trade Pollard for DJ Moore.
He'd be getting rid of Pollard to get DJ Moore?
That's what it sounds like.
And who's his running back? Who's his wide receivers again?
Higgins, Debo, Reed, and Pickens. And he has Cooks. He has Cooks and Jonathan Taylor and Etienne.
He doesn't need a running back, so he's talking about trading Pollard for DJ Moore. I would do that deal.
Nice. Well, there you go, Preston. Thanks for playing fantasy football tonight.
Yeah, those are fun. Like, I love those. If we have a bunch of those queued up, like let's roll through those. Those are fun to think about. I just got to remember. I just got to have a better memory of what players we're talking about.
Right. All right. So sell high now. We got Stephon Diggs right out to get here. So Derek Brown again, Fantasy Pros says right now I'd be shopping Stephon Diggs. His standing as wide receiver 13 in fantasy is likely to fade as Tank Dell rebounds. He may continue to produce, but more at a wide receiver 2-3 pace this season. I'll be looking to get a low-end RB2 in return, like Brian Robinson Jr. or Devin Singletary. Do you agree, disagree? What would you do?
Love Devin Singletary. I think you can get more than that, though, for Stephon Diggs.
I would agree.
Yeah,
I mean, he's
if you want to get both Brian Robinson and Devin Singletary in return, I would do that. But I think you should be shooting for more than just one or the other.
I don't know if you could, just spit this right away, but how has Stephon Diggs been the last couple of seasons fantasy-wise?
Fairly strong. I think he's also started really strong in Buffalo with Josh Allen. I think he tailed off towards the end of the season. He's always capable of one of those games that can win you a league in a given week. And so I think the consistency and just like his overall, he kind of a head case at some times, what makes him a little bit unpredictable. But by and large, the running back position is more valuable than the wide receiver position. So I would be focused more on acquiring people like Brian Robinson and Devin Singletary and then playing them based on matchups, right? Where if you can sell Stephon Diggs, particularly in a dynasty league, like I think once the wide receivers get to their 31, 32-year-old season, they tend to tail off. This would be a prime time to sell on Stephon Diggs.
So we've already spoken about Sam Darnold a few times tonight. Clearly he's on the sell high list. If there's something that you can do with him that makes sense, now's the time. He's flying high right now. So next up would be Juwan Jennings. We spoke about him a little bit earlier, but Corey Piper from Fantasy Six Pack said Juwan Jennings is coming off the biggest wide receiver game of the season with 11 catches for 175 yards and 3 TDs. Eventually, the typical 49ers playmakers, George Kittle, Deebo Samuel, and hopefully Christian McCaffrey will be back. Plus, Brandon Ayuk will get up to speed after his holdout. We've seen what Jennings has done in the offense when everyone else is healthy. I'd love to see if I could move him for one of the slow starting tight ends, such as Mark Andrews or Travis Kelce. And I will say this, if anyone wants to trade me, Juwan Jennings for Mark Andrews, I'm your guy. All day. But what do you think?
hold on to Juwan Jennings right now. Like, hold on. They just pump the brakes. We don't need to be offloading Juwan Jennings just yet. Like, we asked you to pick him up last week. Those who listened hopefully did. And now he turns in the top wide receiver performance of the year so far. Hold on, right? Because I think we're going to have issues with Debo for a couple weeks. We're going to have issues with McCaffrey, I think, for half the season. Shanahan's he can feed as many mouths as he needs to in that offense. So hold on to Juwan Jennings. Don't be trading him for certainly not Travis Kelce. And right now it's not Mark Andrews. I would hold on to Juwan Jennings.
So next up would have been Andrews or Kelce. I'm gonna slide by them. We've already touched on them, and Chuba Hubbard, we kind of spoke about him, but J.K. Dobbins is interesting because I don't know anyone that would really want to sell him, but that's just my opinion, especially right now. But J.K. Dobbins is the definition of a sell high, according to Jesse Moeller. The player has massively outperformed his role so far this season. Would you agree with that? Would you be, on the trade block with him right now?
I would agree with that. I think I would agree with Jesse in this, because what we're looking at with J.K. Dobbins is over the first couple of weeks, like, he was outperforming most of the field. We're already seeing him maybe come to, like, he had played a tough Pittsburgh defense last week, but the injury concerns are there. The offense without Justin Herbert, who looks to be beat up and not a full version of himself, I think was going to make that offense overall pretty ineffective. I don't have a problem with selling J.K. Dobbins. I think a lot of people drafted him with the hopes that he would be something, and if you can turn that into something, 1.5, 2x value, I would do it now.
Well,
I also want to say I am holding J.K. Dobbins in a few places as well. I've got him in several leagues. I've got him in a couple of leagues where I can't trade him, right? There are no trading leagues. And so I've got to hold him, and I'm rooting for him. I want him to be successful, but where I can, I'm probably flipping him.
Makes sense. Now, you mentioned, the calls of the week last week, players that you thought were hot items that we needed to pick up right now. Go ahead and recap some of those players that you called out last week, how they do.
Yeah. So we were putting our DFS lineups in last week, preparing for week 3. We had several names who turned out to be huge hits, right? So hopefully we had some listeners that tailed this. Jahmyr Gibbs, Chris Olave, Deontay Johnson, Juwan Jennings, we talked about, Devontae Smith, and the Seahawks defense, all of which put in stellar performances through last week. Won me a good amount of money in terms of DFS. I would say players who did okay, not bad, not good. Jordan Mason, Brock Bowers did fine. I think the misses here was Derek Carr. We thought we were going to expect more from Derek Carr. And if we had a quarterback that performed up to their value projection, I think we would have done a lot better. So we really missed on Derek Carr. But overall, when I look at it, 6 hits, 2 neutral, and 1 miss. But good week overall.
When I look back at it, I should have known not to roll the dice on Derek Carr for 3 weeks in a row.
That's true.
I should have known. I should have too. Should have. All right. So do you have any DFS options for us for this week? I wrote a few down. If you want to give me your thoughts, or if you've got a list together, but I put Jaden Daniels in there at 6,500, Andy Dalton in there at 5,300. Yeah. But run away. It's your list. You do it every week. Whoever you think is the list this week.
Yeah, I haven't set a lot of DFS yet, and again, we were running from. I was running a little bit late to this show tonight. The one I have set right now, which is subject to change, but I will go on record with this lineup. So if we want to notate them down, and if there's any updates to this, I'll certainly post them. But I'll go with Joe Burrow at quarterback against the Panthers. I'm going to go with Marvin Harrison against the porous Commanders defense.
Love it.
The other wide receiver, I'm going to go on the other side of that. We talked about stacks last week. I'm going to go with Terry McLaurin on the other side of that, as well as Juwan Jennings one more week, because I think we're going to miss at least one more week of Debo. So quarterback Joe Burrow, wide receivers Marvin Harrison, Terry McLaurin, and Juwan Jennings. At running back, I'm going to roll with Saquon Barkley, right? So I'm putting a lot of salary into these high top guys. I'm going to have to then go a little bit cheaper with like DeAndre Swift, the other running back. I'm also going to run with Mike Gesicki as a value play at tight end, and I think some just a little differentiation from the field. I'm going to do Darnell Mooney from Atlanta going against the Saints, and then the Texans defense going against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I like
that's
it.
That's my GPP lineup for this week.
I'm not a big fan of Swift, but I understand the risk reward here is that you're banking on, a few of these guys are going to hit home runs. Let me ask you this, because you talk about handcuffing or stacking. If Marvin Harrison is to go off, how expensive is Kyler Murray compared to Joe Burrow right now?
A little bit more expensive. He's a little bit more expensive. I think only $100 or $200 more. So it was a consideration I had. The reason I moved away from Kyler Murray is I think a large percentage of the field, 25% or more, are going to be on Kyler. And again, we're not here to necessarily pick that perfect lineup. We're trying to find the best lineup that can differentiate themselves from the others. And I think Joe Burrow is going to be more in the 5, maybe 10% owned.
Okay. And see, that's where people I think get lost when they do their lineups, which I'm guilty as charged. Like before I started talking fantasy football with you, I'm always trying to figure out, okay, who's going to do the best this week, and not taking into consideration that everybody's picking those players, or at least 90% of the field is, because they don't understand that 10% of them are trying to do something really different.
Yeah, I think it's important for listeners to know, like, if you want to take that approach to it, that's totally fine. Go in and pick your best lineup that you possibly can, but make sure you're entering in contests that are cash, right? Where you just have to be better than half the field or have to beat one other person. Those lineups are going to be better suited to build your bankroll with cash games, not GPPs.
Okay. Last up, how do we do in our Rock Down Cancer Foundation lineup?
We're on the board, man. We're on the board.
We're on the board.
Yeah.
All right.
We're on the board. Well, nice win last week, despite very poor performances from Trevor Lawrence. We had Terry McLaurin clinched it with that long touchdown pass that he had on Monday Night Football. So we are 1-2. We're in the middle of the pack in points, which is totally fine. We've weathered the storm. We're in decent shape. There's several teams that are 0-3 in our league, so like we're doing okay. The lineups and the people that we have on our team, I think, look pretty good. So we're going to put in a request for Sam Darnold. I might replace Sam Darnold, or I might replace Trevor Lawrence with Sam Darnold, and then we'll make a play for another back end wide receiver sometime tonight too.
Nice, man.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it's always good talking to you, Jared. I hope it sounds like things calmed down a little bit at the elevator, so it's no more the locker room water cooler.
Yeah.
But it's always nice talking to you. And those are your tips for the week right now. If you have any questions, you guys can just send them to mailbag@rockdown.com. So for next week, Wednesday, I think we'll be back to 7 p.m. unless you tell me different.
No, 7 p.m. will work. I'll be back in my home office. Hopefully a little better sound quality and video quality, but overall we made it happen. We knew this was going to happen with me traveling occasionally, so we were able to weather the storm and get this one done. So
yeah, it's all good. Actually, it worked out good.
Yeah.
All
right. And then hey, big night on Monday night for the Lions. So let's hope we can shed the demons of the Seahawks.
I'll see you there.
All right, buddy.
Sounds good. You guys take care. We'll see you guys all in the next one.
Bye-bye.
See ya.